Katy Tur. Welcome back.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Katy Tur, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be here.
It's exciting to have you because, you know, your last book went on to become a New York Times bestseller. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel like this book has the same in store, and I think for a slightly different reason. You know, many people have seen you on MSNBC, people have seen you on the campaign trail covering Donald Trump and, you know, changing what you do on your show these days. But this book takes us through one of the most harrowing childhoods that's filled with, you know, moments of joy, moments of pain, moments of terror, really.
Yeah.
And I think let's start at the beginning to situate people. Everyone talks about helicopter parents, but you mean actual helicopter parents when you... No, and I mean, everyone goes, no, you had helicopter parents. Just explain that for the people to understand, please.
My dad was a helicopter pilot.
Right.
And my parents had a helicopter news gathering company.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in the helicopter. I spent more time in the helicopter than I did in my own bed. I would fly the helicopter alongside my dad. I developed an unhealthy obsession with backyard pools because in Los Angeles, everybody had a backyard pool, it seemed, except me.
And you were just the person in the helicopter. You know, what's interesting about your story is, in many ways, I feel like it tracks news in America. You know, where you were as a child, you were at what many would argue was the beginning of the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
The OJ chase, that was your dad.
And my mom, yeah.
Right, following that, you know, and then your mom is there, everyone's working, the cameras.
My mom is hanging out of
Right.
the helicopter with a camera on her shoulder, quite literally, just strapped in with a belt, looking down at the ground, which is 1,500 feet below her. The OJ chase, they were the first ones to get that. The Reginald Denny beating during the riots, the LA riots, the guy that got pulled out of the red truck and beaten to within an inch of his life. Any police pursuit you saw in Los Angeles in the 90s and the late 80s. Madonna giving the camera the bird on her wedding day to Sean
wild.
Penn. My parents shot that.
It feels like in many ways, that was the, I don't want to say like your parents invented that, but that was sort of their style. You know, that was a thing that became synonymous with...
Well, they did sort of invent it, actually. So they were, if they didn't cover the very first police pursuit, it was the second. And they were the ones that popularized it. They were the ones that changed the way news was covered in Los Angeles, and then the country, and then you could argue the world. It was breaking in the moment. It was now.
Yes.
No context needed. Blow out everything and cover this for as long as we can. You know, it was an easy decision going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever was happening, it didn't matter. If there was a chase going on, go to that chase. People will watch.
It feels like there's one part of us that's like eternally grateful to your parents for, you know, starting this trend and, we get to see what's happening. On the other hand, it feels like this became the drug that news became addicted to.
It is a double-edged sword because they captured things that you were not supposed to see. They captured the police brutally beating immigrants on the side of the highway. I mean, stuff that the police would have gotten away with had my parents not been there. So they did some incredible things, and they won all the awards that there are to win. But you could say, arguably, that they were responsible for the downfall of local news, maybe the downfall of national news, the addiction to reality TV as news. And I do think you could draw a straight line from the way we covered pursuits back then to the way we covered Donald Trump in 2016 and the way we cover politics now.
Yeah, it seems like it's all about the now. It's all about what's unfolding. Nobody takes time anymore.
Don't digest it.
Yes.
Just put it on the air.
Do you ever feel pressure as a journalist to be in that space? Because you're on MSNBC, it is 24 hours, everything is happening live. How do you find that balance between waiting for more information whilst also telling the people what's happening?
I think we're learning in real time right now, and I do think we are learning from our mistakes. I write about in this book the Barr summary. You know, when A.G. Barr came out and he gave the summary of the Mueller report, which ended up being weeks before the Mueller report came out. And so he gives us the summary on a Sunday, and it is misleading, as we know right now. It didn't have any of the underlying evidence, but because we were covering it live, we went to air with it and essentially became a pawn in a political document that then had a head start for the truth, in front of the truth, for weeks. The problem that we face right now is that there is a part of the country that has demonized journalists.
Yes.
And has said that we only report one thing. We only want the outcome to be a certain way. So say we didn't go up with the Barr report and other people did, Fox News did, or other outlets on the right, Breitbart, et cetera, and we didn't. And we said, we're gonna wait until we get the full context of it. They would have used that as fodder to say, hey, listen, we're not going to report on something that was good for Donald Trump.
Right, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. There's another part of the book that I feel is particularly pertinent, not just because of the month we're in, not just because of the time we're in, but because of, I think, life and relationships as a whole. And it's you talking about your relationship with your father, who transitioned and came out as transgender. I don't think I've read an account from a person that is as personal as yours is, because you talk about being raised by a father who was, struggled with rage, it's like real anger towards you. It was an abusive household to be in. You were terrified as a child. And then you have this moment where your dad says, hey, no, I'm now she, and call me Hannah, and it becomes this whole journey, and then asks you to throw away the old memories of another person and just live with somebody new. It's a very layered question, but what do you think we can all learn, or how did you navigate what has to be one of the most confusing issues happening in society today?
It was very confusing in the moment, and what made it confusing is that life is complicated, and childhoods are complicated. And mine was especially complicated for distinct reasons. I loved my childhood. It was so much fun, and there was so much love within my family, but it was also incredibly scary at times. My dad, as you said, would fly into rages. There would be holes in the walls of our house that we as little kids would plaster over to cover up. I hid in the bathroom one time for hours because I was afraid of what my dad might do. He threw things at my mother. And then when he called me, and I use he very specifically because in that moment, my dad was still he to me. When he called to say, I'm not a he, I'm a she, my name is not Bob Tur, Bob Tur is dead. Literally, Bob Tur is dead is what he said. I'm Hannah, and we can throw away everything that happened in the past. All of that is gone. That's where the rage came from. The rage will now be gone. I had a hard time with that. And it because of the content of what my dad was telling me, and the fact that my dad had been living this life for so long, it made it even harder to navigate, because on the one hand, how awful for my dad.
Right.
How horrible to have to live a lie for that long and to not be your true self. And of course that's gonna make you a wound up person, and it's gonna break you in some ways. But you were also my father, and you were also somebody who has done a lot of bad things to us and me, my mother, and I can't just throw that away.
Right.
I don't have the ability to just forget those memories. And I tried to bring that up, and it just didn't go well. It didn't go well. My dad didn't want to confront it, and I didn't want to let it go. And so now we're estranged, and it sucks.
I think what I appreciated most about it was it took an issue that many people are trying to turn into this homogenous blob, and it showed us how many individuals are involved in all the stories. People talk about trans people as if it is one human being that is doing certain things, or they talk about gay people as if it, and this showed you there are many stories, there are many people, there are many complications.
People are people.
People are people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating book. You shared so much. I think everybody's really gonna love reading it, for journalism, for life, for families, for everything. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. I appreciate you. Katy Tur's memoir, Rough Draft, is available now, and be sure to watch Katy Tur Reports on MSNBC.